I'm Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined with two legendary Advantage players. We've got professional sports bettor Captain Jack and all-around badass AP Gina Fiore, aka RX Gamble, aka Miss Brown. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thanks, Colin.
Doing great, Colin. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
All right, so Advantage Play. What were you guys doing before Advantage Play, and were you Advantage players before casinos or sports books?
I've always liked getting the edge at things, and I also don't like paying full price. So I always wanted to have like a coupon or something like that. Anytime I bought something, I wanted to have the best price. And I think that's kind of carried through to my Advantage Play career, is I've always wanted to kind of get the edge. Before I was full-time, I worked in IT for a law firm. And I kind of found that that's how I sort of have this slant towards regulations and regulatory procedures and things like that, because I've spent time in a law firm and understand some of the nuts and bolts behind it. And that's kind of helped my AP career as well.
I don't think that I was an edge seeker, but I have this memory. I have this memory of being 9 years old outside of a Safeway in Lake Tahoe, where we used to live, and they had a merry-go-round, but it only had 3 horses. It was just a little thing, and you put in 50 cents and it would go around. So I would sit on it and wait for someone else, another kid, to come onto the merry-go-round, and they put their 50 cents in. So I remember having that personality, but I also remember mom and dad shaming me for doing it.
No.
Like saying she's sitting there waiting for, someone else to ride. It was a whisper thing, and I felt so bad. I felt like garbage. But I remember that was my first AP play.
Do you still feel bad when casinos shame you for beating their games?
No, not at all. But at that moment, I remember feeling bad, like I was doing something wrong, I guess.
What about you, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the coupon thing. I remember we found a thing in high school. It was Valentine's. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was something like Wendy's buy one Frosty, get 2 free. And it was totally a loss leader. And we found a way. I went to a small private school. We bought Frosties for the entire high school, like 200 of them. And probably, cost them $100, and it cost us like $20 to buy Frosties for whatever the deal was. It was like we saw it and we just like jumped on it, and they're probably pissed off making 100, 200 Frosties, whatever it was. But yeah, that was just kind of that personality. It didn't bother me as long as it was like within the law, within
the terms and conditions.
Exactly, within the terms and conditions. Then it felt like, why not do this?
I still don't have that personality. Like, I don't play the credit card game really well, which I'm trying to get into. But even coupons, I just don't have the same personality, but I always wanted to make a lot of money. I always wanted to make money. I just didn't know how I'd do it.
That's interesting. So it's a little bit different motivation.
Yeah, it's not about getting the edge. It's about, I want to make all the money. How do I make the money? Yeah.
And meanwhile, I am an edge seeker. I am somebody who can only do it with an edge, or else I don't enjoy doing it. So, or at least a perceived edge. I found that at times in my life where I thought I had an edge and I was all for it, and then found out later, I don't have an edge. And now it's hard for me to like pull myself off of that, because I can justify it with an edge, but without it, it's not a good activity.
So you've both chosen to move on from you both got started as card counters.
Yes.
And moved on to other more advanced AP plays and sports at some point. How has your view of Advantage Play changed as you've progressed from one thing to another?
I don't get so upset if I miss a game or if I miss an edge. It used to eat at me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything else. If there was a game in Biloxi, I was on a flight. And if I couldn't get on a flight, my week was ruined. I'd obsess about it. And now I have a kid and I'm doing other things creatively, so it doesn't get to me as much. Also, I used to, when I first started, if I lost an opportunity, I'd sit at home and think, what am I going to do? Should I go back to school? Do I get another job? Like, what do I do? What do I do? And after, I guess, maybe 5 years, I stopped having that feeling, because you learn more. And now 22 years into it, I don't feel like that anymore, because I still make my living gambling, and I don't feel, if something dies, if like a sports book changes their price, I don't feel like, now what am I going to do? Because I know so much.
Well, there's always this mentality from APs, and I think all three of us can relate to this, where you fear that your biggest competition are your colleagues. And so there's a lot of incentive to wish against everybody else and for yourself, right? And that's been probably the hardest thing to shake as I kind of evolved as an AP, was to not fear like, oh, another card counter. Well, I hope he, has a bad run, or, oh, good, he got the 15 or something like that. Similarly, with a lot of other advantage plays, especially ones where there's only a finite amount of edge to be had and you got to find it before somebody else finds it. I found that in sports betting. There's a lot of people that don't like other people understanding how to gain an edge in sports betting because they fear they're taking dinner off of their plates by, finding the edge before they do. What I've found, though, is there are so many more edges out there than you even know. And no matter how much you think you know, how long you've been doing this, there's a lot more edges out there than you even realize. And when you get that mentality, you start to not fear the other players.
Going back to the competitive nature, it's like really common. I see people saying this online, or they'll just say it to me, where it's they learned about it from someone else, but once they found it, they don't want anyone else to find out.
I founded a company that helps people find edges. And what I found is it's really hard to market my site because the winners don't want other people to know they're winners. The people that are using Unabated don't want other people to know about Unabated. We just had the blackjack ball this weekend, and I sat at a table with 7 other people. 2 of them I knew, but the others I didn't know. There were 4 Unabated subscribers on the table. People I hadn't met before. People that weren't going to tell other people they were Unabated subscribers. They were only telling me. We've noticed that in our community Discord, people will post about a losing week very much. Like, oh, this week was horrible. I went this. They'll never post about a winning week. And trust me, they have winning weeks. They just won't post about it because they don't want other people to catch on to what they're doing. So that makes it tough from my viewpoint of running a site like this to help it attract other people, because people just don't want to share it.
What would you guys say your experience is in terms of the differences in the cultures or the communities of different advantage play groups? Are they all supportive? Are they all toxic? Or what have you experienced?
So I'll take this one.
Name names.
Yes. Well, I grew up professionally on BJA120. And BJA120 sometimes would have some fights that would break out and some disagreements. And there was some people there before we knew what trolls meant. There was some professional trolls on BJA120 back in the day. Okay, fast forward to when we were building Unabated and the idea came up to have a Discord community. And I said, oh, absolutely not. Like, Discord communities, any community among APs just devolves into pick making and sniping at each other and touting. And I was against it, but we said, we'll give it a try. And I said, all right, I'll put my best foot forward to try to make this a very welcoming community. And it worked. And we have a very supportive community, sometimes despite my best efforts, because sometimes I get in a bad mood and I'll say something and I'll, make a flippant remark that I really shouldn't do. But it kind of gets back to my early days of when I was getting into this, and you had to have a little tough experience and you had to shout down the haters.
Skin. Yeah, I used to get hated on, and when you're new and when you're asking a lot of questions.
Yeah. I would say to this day, like, the best part of Advantage Play is the people I've met. And the worst part about Advantage Play is some of the people. You're both very unique in that you've been in the Advantage Play world for over 20 years. What can you share about what it takes to have that kind of longevity? What is different about how you've approached it as opposed to those that, like myself, that after a couple of years, like, been there, done that, I'm done, I'm burned out?
It's, for me, I don't have anything else to fall back on. I've looked at, just for fun, I've looked at like monster.com or something like that. I don't qualify for anything. I couldn't get a job based on a piece of paper. And I have friends who say, no, you've ran a team and you've done this and you've done that. And I don't think it translates. I can't finish. I've tried to take continuing education classes of things I'm interested in. I didn't finish one. I can't finish a class. I'm not good in that environment. But I'm very competitive and I don't have anything to fall back on. So Advantage Play, and I like it. It's fun. It's fun. Sports betting, I started collaborating with Unabated because I knew I had to learn the tools. And I love like messing with the tools and learning something new and then making money. It's fun. It is just fun to do.
I like that I'm doing something different. So if I had been doing the same thing for the past 20 years,
Oh, for sure.
I would have burned out long ago. Stanford Wong once said, if you're smart enough to make money doing this, you're smart enough to make money doing anything. And he was right. And we look at all of our friends from 20 years ago that have moved on into financial markets or moved on into entrepreneurship. They were smart enough to get the edge, and then they said, okay, I'm going to move on to my next thing. Well, in my life, my next thing has always still been gambling related.
Same.
You know, it might have been card counting turned into a brief foray into shuffle tracking and then into trying to do dice control with craps, or online casinos, and then sports betting. And sports betting's probably been the longest I've stuck with anything. But at the same time, I still to myself think, what comes next with sports betting?
It's the landscape changes.
The thing about sports betting that makes it so attractive is I'm not doing the same things with sports betting that I was doing before. It's like almost like you have this casino full of beatable games. They're not all blackjack, some other types of games. Well, that's what sports betting is there's all these beatable ways to get an edge at sports betting. So I can constantly be morphing into somebody else and getting an edge at something else with sports betting. And that's probably why I've stayed with it for so long.
I've made a healthy mid six figures just betting sports, not promos, just betting sports. But going to unabated, I'm doing things I've never done before. So I'm learning a lot.
Is that why you think you've avoided the burnout, is always having a new
Yes.
a new angle to find, or a new
For
edge?
sure. Especially as a mom. I can't travel like I used to.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah. I think if I hadn't figured out Blackjack Apprenticeship, I'd probably still be gambling.
Right.
I'm glad I did, because I've got a crap ton of kids, and I get to be home with them and help them with their math every day and all that stuff. But I don't have anything else to do, and I
Right.
would have had to find other edges, because
Card counting.
yeah. Like, I loved it for 2,000 hours, and then it was like, okay, what else? What else is there to do?
I don't think I lasted 2,000 hours total on
I
card
still
counting.
like card counting. It's fun. It feels like gambling. I won't do it. It's so obvious. I've done it once in the last, I don't know, however long. Somebody came into town and wanted to BP for the experience. And I said, okay, the easiest thing to do is go count cards. So we did that, and it was really fun, and we won, which makes it more fun. The only other thing that I like to do and that I think I'm okay at is like creative things, like writing. I want to consult, or I have been consulting for TV, but it's all gambling adjacent. I know gambling, let me make sure that you get this scene right in your TV show. Or I know gambling, I can write a book about my experiences, not a manual. I'm never going to write. I take that back. There's one move that I came up with all by myself, and I want to write about that. But otherwise, yeah, it's gambling adjacent.
Have you guys had to deal with bad apples over the years? Like, you get involved with someone that ended up being a bad apple, either of you?
Yeah, and then I just get out of the situation.
The biggest mistake I've made in my AP career was trying to be too much of a lone wolf too many times. I've done plenty of networking and partnerships with people, but overall, I've done less partnerships and less teamwork. And as a result, I haven't had situations where I've had to deal with bad teammates or a bad situation. Now, I've had plenty of bad sportsbook experiences and plenty of bad casino experiences, but in terms of teammates, not as much.
Well, there's other people vouch for them. That's one thing, and they have a reputation in the community. Not stealing. They've never been accused of stealing. That's a big one. It's networking. It's not networking. I don't like to network that much either. When we had a team, for instance, we never burned out our BPs. We kept our team, we kept the same BPs, and we rotated if the BP was up 90K at a casino, we took him out, and then another BP went in, and then 6 months later, that guy would come back. Like, we never, because I didn't want to bring in new people all the time. I know not everyone does it like that, but I'm protective of basically who I work with.
I think if I had to do over, I would have preferred a different model, because we did have kind of a core group that honestly won pretty much all the money, and they were the people that are still my friends. I think there was this sort of like, how big can it get thing, and I'd rather have kept it small, same people, and find new edges, find other ways to do things, or rather than the like burn everybody out thing. But maybe a little bit of that was, this was around the time of the MIT team, stuff like that, where it was just like burn it all down. So that's what we thought to do.
Yeah, and it works. I just didn't want to, because we also did a lot of different things, and if you have someone skilled, you don't want to burn them and then have to bring someone else in and teach them. Plus everyone's dealing with money, and yeah, we just didn't burn people out. But I've had mostly good experiences with players I've worked with.
I think maybe I also, in my mid-20s, underestimated how hard it is to find people that you really like working with, that can do it very well, that you really trust.
And who get it. You can't take someone off the street and put them on a blackjack table and give them money, and it's a certain personality that's comfortable with it. Even poker players, I've tried to have a poker player like BP for me, and they get on the table and they're nervous every phone call. It takes a certain personality. I don't know why I have that personality, but it takes a certain type.
What about legal troubles? Have you both had?
We've both. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Look, it's something you run into. The longer you play, the more likely you are to have a situation where a casino takes it too far, or whether there's a genuine misunderstanding as to what is a violation of terms and conditions and what is a violation of state law. Mm-hmm. And typically those things get worked out in the court system, but that doesn't mean you don't get handcuffed and you don't get backroomed and you don't get charges against you and you don't have a non-zero chance of having, a felony conviction on your record. And
legal fees.
And legal fees. Yeah. And legal fees, big time. And that's actually one hidden benefit of working with a team, is making sure that in your team agreement you say that you share legal fees, because there's only going to probably be one of you that gets arrested. It's not like they're going to go and arrest all the team. And so if you have sort of like this team supporting you for these legal fees, then writing a $50,000 check to Bob Nersessian isn't a big a deal if you're only responsible for 10% of it.
I can't imagine a team being like, you're on your own, buddy. Yeah.
Some people joke about, I hope they beat me up so I get a lawsuit, but it's a time suck.
Yeah. Look, it also gives you some PTSD of being anywhere near that situation. For instance, I used to love to be in casinos early in the day when there was nobody around and you could get a table to yourself, or you could do some play by yourself. And then one time I got picked up doing a play at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. And now I fear being in a casino with nobody around, because I feel like all the eyes are on me. They're probably not, but if I'm in a casino and like a weird hour on a time when it's not crowded, I get a little sweaty. Like I just start to feel self-conscious, even if I'm not doing anything. Mm-hmm. It definitely messes with your mind there. Yeah.
How do you feel about the future of advantage play?
I think there will always be advantage play opportunities, even with all the new technology. Yeah. I
go back to, I used to know the date, but it was in the mid-50s. Las Vegas decided they didn't want people card counting anymore. It was the mid-60s. And they changed the rules. Remember this? This is a popular date in blackjack history. They changed the rules and people stopped playing. Now, I don't think that would happen these days. It's obvious. Like they keep changing the rules for the worse and people keep playing. But back then they changed the rules. People stopped playing. And so they had to change them back like a week or two later. And I think the same thing goes with a lot of advantage play, is there's always something new coming up. And even if they were to change the rules on us and they were to say, okay, with whatever you're doing, there's no way to get an advantage here, you're going to find some other way to get an advantage. Because, look, in the long run, casinos, sports books, marketing people are all the same. They're all money hungry, looking for ways to entice gamblers to come in. And as long as they're looking to entice people to come in, they're going to make something a little too good to be true. Right. There's always going to be an incentive to get the people in the door. And if you're there getting the incentive, if you're there just picking off the spots where it's positive EV for you, they're always going to be there. So I'm not worried about advantage play drying up. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there will be more advantage plays tomorrow than there are today. And I'm speaking in very abstract terms of any tomorrow will be better than today, and today is better than yesterday.
I don't know if I would agree with that. There used to be some very easy spots, and the community was smaller, so you had less competition. But I think casinos in general and sports books are bad at business. But
Yes.
people are giving them their money, but they're bad at business. Look at the MGM cyber attack. That shouldn't have happened to that degree. But their technology obviously wasn't up to par. Even surveillance, you have these surveillance systems that are high tech and the best and new. But if you have a guy up there that you're not paying well, that you don't care about, that is disposable, he doesn't care. He's clocking in and he wants to clock out, and he's not taking the job as seriously as it should be taken with the system that you invested in, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing's true with sports betting. A lot of these sports books will hire very young guys, 23, 24 years old, right out of college, and they entice them in by saying, hey, this is the coolest job you'll ever have. You work at DraftKings. And they're like, yeah, that is cool. And they pay them very little. They pay them under $40,000 a year to be the risk management for the sports book. Mm-hmm. And there's a team of them. And within a year, they go, oh, man, I got college loans I got to start paying off. I can't be taking this $38,000 a year job, and I have this degree in, finance or whatever. And so they move on to a more well-paying job, but they're replaced by another guy fresh out of college. And it's just this cycle of young guys that are trading for these sports books, and they don't stay long enough to learn the real intricacies of risk management in sports betting. And so that's why it perpetuates there at places that are like that. And it'll continue to perpetuate because that's their business model. They're willing to, okay, we'll just pay $38,000 a year rather than pay $138,000 a year to the guy that's actually qualified to do this expertly.
I know we've put more focus at like training people at Blackjack Apprenticeship the last few years on just how to have good etiquette as an advantage player. It wasn't something I thought we had to kind of train people on, but I hear these stories of kind of like you're saying, someone just, they'd be talking at the table about how I'm counting cards here.
Yes.
I'm going to count the cards. And it's like, why would you think that you should do that?
They're not thinking for themselves. If you jump on my game, you don't know if I have heat. You have no idea. So you could have walked into a bad situation. You're not thinking about yourself.
At the risk of sounding like an old man saying, get off the lawn, I think there's some wisdom in saying, hey, really, if you want to have sustained success at this, think through the approach. I mean, I think both of you are underselling. You say, oh, well, what else was I going to do? Or found new edge. But also thinking through how to do this, like treating it like a profession.
Yeah, it's I call it the art of sports betting. And look, I could tell you, boom, there's an edge right there. Everybody go bet it. And thousands of people might be listening to me on our Discord or on Twitter or wherever. And that wouldn't be good for me or them because 1,000 people going to the same bet at the same time alerts the sports book that what's going on here? Why are 1,000 people betting into this same line at the same time? It's not good for sustainability for you or for your edges at that sports book. And so there's a lot about finding out how to practice the art of sports betting and how to get the money down without being detected. It's a big part of what we do.
How do you feel about casinos?
I don't like casinos. I don't like them. And I'm very comfortable in them, so I don't know what that says about me. And sports books online, I don't like it. I don't like where they advertise. I don't like how they advertise. They're just they're advertising on college campuses. I don't like it. I don't.
And what about a physical sports book? Do you like being in a physical sports book?
It's the same as a casino, but I don't feel like that's bringing people in like online sports betting is, obviously. Yeah, I just don't like them. I think it's better if they're limited on where they can advertise, but I'm in the minority on this one.
I don't think you're in the minority. I think if people were given the chance to limit the advertising that casinos and sports books do, I think the general public would be in favor of that.
Well, there's the argument, like, let people make their own decisions.
Yes.
And you don't need to control where they can advertise, how they do business, I like it better when you have to play offshore or with a bookie. I think it's safer
As
overall.
far as I get that pushback too, because I can't stand casinos, and I get the pushback of like, let people make their own decisions. I think about Ed Thorpe. He did a Gambling with an Edge where he talked about, he's seen this cycle over decades with the markets where there's this push to deregulate, and they do, and then people abuse it, and it hurts the public. And so then they have to, you know what? Hey, we have to regulate. This is harmful. So they re-regulate, and then enough time goes by, they deregulate. I thought that was really interesting. Where it's like, I don't know. I don't like that it can so easly abuse people. Though people do need to make their own decisions.
I think the public as a whole, I think as a whole, America is going to be more in debt than we already are because of sports betting. I think it's going to have a huge impact that nobody's taking into consideration. I think it's going to ruin more college kids' lives than anyone can imagine. And it's hard to gamble for a living. We're up here. We've been doing it 20 years, and there's always a move. And it's hard. It is hard to beat sports. It's hard to gamble for a living. But people just don't realize how hard it is. And especially with sports, because of variance, you can win for a season. And then at the end, I figured it out. I broke the code. But you did not break the code.
Right. I think the more that sports betting moves into this high frequency, in other words, it used to be bet on the NFL, okay, you're making your one bet a week. And now bet on the NFL, okay, you're making bets before game, in game. You can now bet on every down. You can now bet on what the longest pass will be on the next set of downs. You can bet all of these micro events to happen. And what's happening is we're turning sports betting into more of a slot machine where it's like press the button, press the button, press the button. And that's not going to be great for a lot of people because that's where you get into the law of large numbers, and the house vig definitely eats into your long run potential, and you're less likely to win. And look, I think casinos and sportsbooks are a necessary evil. I make my living from them, and sports betting at least is somewhat of a negative sum game in that for every winner, there's a loser, and then there's the house edge, which takes away from both sides. And so I need there to be square bettors out there in order for the sports book to not see my action over on the side. But do I like casinos in general? No. But here's the thing, I do appreciate the aesthetic nature of a well-designed casino. There's a lot of science that goes into casinos that is somewhat fascinating as someone who's just an observer of the human condition. There's things about casinos that you just don't understand unless you've kind of figured out how all the trappings work. And why it gets real narrow right on this passageway. It's because they got all their facial recognition cameras pointed at that one passageway. That's where you have to avoid. Sometimes it's best when you're walking through a casino to go in and out of the slot machines rather than go down the walkway. It's just because you avoid detection, things like that. So I don't know, Gina, I slightly disagree. I have this... I enjoy the trappings of a casino.
Surprisingly, there aren't that many places for me, even though I've been doing it, as long as I have. But yeah, I really like the Wynn. The Wynn, not gambling there, just like going to the spa and staying at the Wynn.
It's like I was gonna say, I've got my favorites too that I'm not welcome in. And I miss
Wynn.
that I'm not allowed to eat at their fine dining on their dime or stay in their rooms on their dime. I don't like them because I never got to stay there by the time they trespassed me. But, here's my pushback with the necessary evil thing. I don't think they're necessary. I think we all would be making plenty of money doing something else if they didn't exist. And yes, people are responsible, but when you see, it's almost pragmatic. You see the studies of what they do to communities
after 5-10 years,
yes,
right?
You just pragmatically say, oh, all those people, they made their own decision to go broke at their neighborhood casino, but it makes me sad, and I wish that they didn't exist.
They come in and they say, we're going to create this many jobs, and then you go back 5 years later, and there are more pawn shops. And yes, people get to make their own decisions, but I don't like it.
The best line I ever heard about Nevada's gaming addiction problem is, you know what Nevada does for problem gamblers? They put them on their plane and send them back home. Like, because that's what they do is they have people come in and they're like, no, just don't stay here, leave, and you can be some other state's problem. And that happens.
All right, that's really sad.
Yeah, that's a down note.
I want to hear a story, if either of you are willing to share a story or a situation where you're in a casino and you're like, I can't believe this is my life or what I'm doing here.
I was walking through a casino one day, and you know how there's these little alcoves where they go to process slot jackpots or whatever, and they have their little computer kiosk there that they use, the slot attendants. And I just happened to glance in there, and there was a bulletin board with a big 8.5 by 11 picture of me. And I actually stood there and was squinting and trying to figure out if it was just somebody that looks like me. And then I realized, no, that's that hat that I was wearing last week when I had some serious heat in one of their sister casinos. And I'm a bolo. I'm going to be on the lookout for this guy. And so I immediately turned and headed towards the exit, which in this casino is one of those things where you got to take an escalator up and you got to cross over a road to the parking garage, because I didn't think I was going to get heat. I was in the parking garage. Well, by the time I walked swiftly towards the escalator, I had a phalanx of security behind me, all telling me to wait just a minute, sir, wait just a minute. And so I sprinted up the escalator, sprinted to my car.
You got in your car?
Well, yeah, well.
In this situation?
In this situation, I thought I could just get out of there. I didn't realize how much heat was actually on me. That was the end of my career at that chain of casino, obviously. But it was that moment when I'm running across this overpass, thinking to myself, like, why am I doing this? You know, like, why do I have to do this? This isn't what I signed up for. But yeah, and those situations happen.
When that happens, I had a conversation with, I think Richard Munchkin. I had this conversation with him. When these things happen, do you look at it as a big deal, or it's just part of the job? Someone else would look at it as one of the highlights of their life. I had this experience and this thing happened where crazy things happened to me. You know, we went to the Supreme Court and I'm like, oh, it's just another day, you know, or running across whatever. It's just, it's another day. But then you tell the story and it's a good story.
Yes. In this case, it was a chain of events that kicked off from there that led to a lot of pain points in my life. So I don't look back on that fondly as like, oh, but I outran these overweight security guards. No, it was, I should have realized that the heat was a lot more than I thought it was, especially if they were, because by the way, the other casino I had been in was 200 miles away. But because I had then used my slot card at this other casino the next day, they were like, well, be on the lookout. This guy's in town. And that's why they posted my picture up there. And so I don't look at that one, but there's plenty of opportunities that I've had over the years where I go, this makes a great story. This is kind of the fun of all this. And I think the one thing I remember the most are the car rides with teammates. I've had 4-hour, 8-hour drives with teammates, and there's only so many podcasts that you can both listen to until it's you have to talk to each other. And some of those conversations, when I see them, like at the blackjack ball, we still have like an inside joke of something we made in the car, dozens of states away. When I see that guy, I go, hey, we use our code word to each other. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's why I like to work with people I want to spend time with. I have a lot of those. And I still I have friendships that go back 20, 15, 10 years that I either I still work with them, or I just am still connected to them. And it's because I've traveled all over the country with so-and-so. And so we can go just pick up where we left off.
That's awesome. The inside jokes on trips, that's like, I still remember the stupid jokes we were making, 18 years ago on some trip where we're crammed into a car trying to get to the next casino to see if they'll let us play.
I wish I took more pictures and videos, and I was at one of your events and somebody showed their slideshow of their career, and I wish I took more pictures. I wish I took more videos. I have one good video of us in an Atlantic City hotel room after we got picked off, and we all look so sad. And yeah, I wish I had more videos. They're really fun to look back.
Well, Colin, that's a good question to you. Do you look back at Holy Rollers and see that as a chronicle of your early career, of a formative time in your life? That was a great documentary.
I can't watch it. I haven't watched it since it was like premiering.
Why? Why can't you watch it?
Oh man, I'm like, feel weird even thinking about it. Like my face is flushing thinking about it. I mean, a couple of reasons. One is like so long ago. Two, I think the first half is fun. What I remember, the first half is fun. Second half was like edited. Like my friend made it, and I've talked to him about this. And I was like, it's not accurate. He's like, it needs more drama. And so that I feel like there's always this like, well, that's not really how it happened, or that's not accurate. We didn't just win and then lose. It's like, no, it's win, lose, win. He's like, that's too much. People can't handle win, lose. Or like, this guy got fired for this reason. It's like, it was far more complex than that. And so it's like, I don't know. It feels difficult to me. I have zero interest. My kids are like, oh, we want to watch it.
Really? Have they seen it?
No.
Really? Wow.
I have it on Blu-ray. It's still in the wrapper. I haven't even opened it. But that's probably me. I need to get over myself and be like, oh yeah, well, that was that. But when I think of the good memories from Advantage Play, it's not what's in that movie. It's the trips with the players or the camaraderie. I guess what it showed was our team meetings, and those were so fun. Like just hanging out with each other. We would hang out. It's not on film, but we'd hang out till 4 a.m. like drinking beer, hanging out over around a fire pit or at a poker table, and yeah, just the camaraderie.
The best times when the trip is over and you're doing the chop, and you either order a ton of room service, or we try to have, depending where we were, we try to have a team dinner after the last shift. But those were fun times, and everyone understands what you've been through, so you don't have to. Yeah, those were the best.
That one, you guys, there was an opening of a casino and you all dressed in character, and that was hilarious. And even they met up at Denny's or something. Yes.
Well, and that whole thing, the crazy costume started before that, but it wasn't for the casinos. It was for each other.
Right.
The whole idea was, can I wear something so ridiculous my teammates won't recognize me? Like I can sit next to them at a blackjack table and they won't know it's me. We just thought that was fun.
That's very funny. Yeah.
And so that every because we do this maybe once a year where we retest our players. So it was like we had to up it every year. Like what's more ridiculous than last year? But it didn't have to do with like that's what we actually wore in real casinos. It was just for fun.
I haven't watched that. I watched it when it came out, and I haven't watched it since. Maybe I should go back.
You and me both. No, that's okay. That's not.
I actually just watched it a few months ago.
Really?
Sorry. Yeah. And I have the DVD, and it's been watched many times.
Okay.
Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us about your views on Advantage Play. To learn more about beating sports books like an Advantage player would beat any other game, check out the Unabated YouTube channel. And to learn more about Card Counting, check out the Blackjack Apprenticeship YouTube channel. And don't check out Holy Rollers.